There are a few signs that show that you're doing well financially even though it doesn't feel like it. Especially in times where it's easy to think you're behind or where you're confronted with these seemingly glamorous lives, you might find yourself in an endless comparison cycle, or you don't know where you actually stand financially. So in this video, we're gonna take a look at these signs. And we will start with you are solvent. Solvent means that you are able to pay for stuff, and there's actually a few criteria that go into this. One of them is that you have an income, and that can be a regular job where you're getting paid a salary. This can be freelance work, a business you own, or also income from investments you have. An income alone is not enough to be solvent though. You also need to be able to pay your bills from that income, and that includes to be able to pay for housing, so a place where you live, and to also pay for food and for clothing and for transportation. And this also includes to have manageable debt. So if you have debt, you are able to pay it back from your income. And that overall allows for a somewhat independent lifestyle. And if you've reached this stage, I think you can already count yourself as fortunate. And you might notice that this first sign is not tied to any numbers. You can live anywhere in the world and have that. And I think a comparison of actual numbers of the world doesn't make much sense here, because the average income worldwide is $9,733 per year. But that number doesn't do you any good if you live in New York. Actually, it might even hurt you to compare yourself to certain numbers, and that brings me to my next sign, which is you compare yourself in the right way. Now, to see if we are good with money, we need to compare ourselves because we don't live in a vacuum. And to find out how to do that best, let's take a look at the social comparison theory. That is a theory from psychology and behavioral science, and what it says is that we want to evaluate our abilities, but we don't have an objective standard to do that. So instead, we look at a subjective standard, in other words, the people around us. Now, the first important thing here to understand is you always compare yourself. There is no way around it. And now that we know that, it's important that we compare ourselves in the right way. Now, within the social comparison theory, there are two types of comparison with different possible consequences each. There is the upward comparison. That is when you compare yourself to someone who you perceive as superior. And that can either lead to you feeling inadequate about yourself, but it can also motivate you to change and to strive for a better position. The other one is downward comparison, and that is when you compare yourself to someone who you perceive as inferior. Now, that can lead to a boost in self-esteem because you feel better about yourself now that you see someone in a worse situation, but it can also lead to you becoming stuck in a situation because you stop evolving. Now, my personal take on this is that we can use both of those comparisons in the right way so that we can get the best out of it for ourselves. Let's start with the downward comparison. I think one danger if you look down on people to feel better about yourself is that you rely your self-esteem on outside factors. But self-esteem is actually something that you have to nurture within yourself by focusing on achievements, by recognizing that you are worthy as a person independently from outside factors. That's what builds self-esteem. And another danger is that it can create a wrong sense of security. If the majority of people around you are broke, you being a little bit less broke is still not a good place to be in. I do think we can use downward comparison to recognize how fortunate we are and to practice gratitude. That does feel us good about ourselves, and it can help to put things into perspective. When it comes to upward comparison, I think we can use it best to find role models, to find people that lead the life that you want to lead to, and start working towards this. If upward comparison makes you feel inadequate, I think you can try to shield yourself from it. At the same time, I think this feeling of inadequacy comes from a point of low self-esteem. So if you find yourself feeling inadequate most of the time, that's a good hint to start working on your self-esteem. Alright, so when it comes to other people, it's about the right balance between upward and downward comparison. In that context, also be aware of the people around you that you spend the most time with, because this can be a high influence also on the way you compare yourself. And there is also a third way of comparing yourself, my favorite way, and that is to yourself. Yourself yesterday, yourself 1 year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. To use yourself as a reference point can be very valuable to see what you already achieved. Now, this is a finance channel, which by the way, you are welcome to subscribe if you want to keep hearing more about building wealth. And finance is also about numbers, so another way to compare ourselves is to numbers. Statistics can be very helpful to see where you are, but there are also some pitfalls. You can look at the average salary of your country. For example, in the US, this has been 59,000 something per year after tax. But also note that the average tells you only so much, because the high earners pull up that number. Alternatively, you can look at the median salary. That tells you if you are in the upper or in the lower half of society, because the median tells you the exact number in the middle. The problem with both those numbers, so average and median, is that they highly depend on the industry, on your education, and also on your location. So if you find specific numbers on that, this will be the better option. You can also look at the salaries of your co-workers. Now, there are some people that say this is bad because you might feel inadequate or feel treated unfairly. I actually think that it's important to know because it can uncover inequality in payment, for example, when it comes to gender difference. It also allows you to negotiate your salary because now you know that it's possible. I mean, there's a reason why in many companies it's forbidden to talk about publicly about what they're earning, because they gain if no one talks about it. So whether see this one as an opportunity. And another number you can look up is the net worth by age. Just a reminder, your net worth is what you own, so your assets, minus what you owe, so your liabilities. And this net worth by age shows you where the rest of your age group stands financially. You'll find also average and mean numbers about this. Sign number 3 that shows that you are financially doing well is that you are prepared. 57% of Americans cannot afford a $1,000 emergency expense. In the UK it was around 25% and in Germany it was around 33%. And to be prepared means to have an emergency fund that allows you to pay for those expenses. For that you should have at least 3 months of expenses in cash. I prefer 6 to 12 months. And to have this buffer means that you are not living paycheck to paycheck. You are more flexible in your career choice because if you want to switch jobs you can easily cover the time in between. And there is so much less financial stress if you check that box. So well done. Sign number 4 is you prevent. Being poor at an old age is a real fear in our generation. And because of the ever-growing aging society in almost every Western country, you cannot rely on the state to cover your lifestyle after you retire. So this sign means that you are actively saving for retirement. That means either do you have an individual retirement account in your country and you're even maxing it out, or if such a thing doesn't exist, you build up wealth for yourself. Sign number 5 is your net worth grows. So this number of what you have minus what you owe gradually increases over time. And even if you have debt, then this number here will be a little bit higher. But as you keep paying it off, the sum of the both grows bigger. And that means you're consistently saving and also investing to help you grow that number. And sign number 6 is you are educating yourself in personal finance. May it be by watching this video this far. Thank you. Or reading books on the topic or talking to other people. That you are interested is a good sign, and it is also an indicator that you do well and you will keep doing well. If you do struggle with feeling poor even though you're not, you can watch this video next where I talk about 5 practical tips to instantly feel rich. I hope you got some value out of this. Thank you for watching and I see you in the next video. Bye bye.